This is Pucks in 7 with Ryan Paton and Victoria Matiash.
I'm a little annoyed with the NHL, Victoria, and I'm going to tell you why. The reason is because I do believe that the first round games in series should be not 7 games anymore.
Right.
They should go, let's just go 10. Let's play 12. I don't care what you do, 11. It doesn't matter. Boy, it's been awesome. Over 2 weeks in, we finally know who's going to play who. We knew what the East was going to be like in the Final Four before the weekend, but now we know the 4 teams in the West. Welcome to Pucks in 7. It's been awesome. Can't wait for round 2. It starts tonight, by the way. This is Monday, May 5th, and not May the 4th be with you, but May 5th be with you.
Cinco de Mayo as well.
Yes, that's right, right?
So to all who celebrate, enjoy.
So many great days. Great. Speaking of great days, you've got the Bills jersey on. Do you want to just tell people you're in a good mood because...
Oh, I'm renewing my season's tickets. We made the decision to do for a 4th season.
Bills.
We're going to go back to Buffalo and looking forward to do more. I also wanted to wear something a little bit neutral because I have some hockey stuff. And right now it's getting super serious. So it's not fun anymore just to wear a Panthers jersey. Also, my friends and family will take issue with that. So and I'm not going to wear Leafs Homer stuff either. So we're going to just do the NFL and keep it clean. But what about, Ryan? What about the Winnipeg Jets? Jets. Jets.
If I was not mistaken, that it was under 2 minutes to go that the Blues had that 3-1 lead.
That's right.
And then everyone knows what happened. The Jets scored 1, and then they scored again very, 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 very late to tie it up, and then they won
1.6 seconds remaining on the clock when Perfetti tipped it in, to tie it up.
I'm going to throw this at you. The biggest play in the series, there was one play out of any single one of them. It doesn't matter all the goals Hellebuyck let in or the Jets coming back and the whatever it is, not the overtime goal, not the game time goal. The biggest play in the series was just before that game time goal last night when Nick Ehlers took the shot and he fanned on it.
Right.
He fanned. It came back, went across to Connor, boom, tipped in. Next thing you know, the crowd's going crazy and we're going to overtime. I look at that play as it could have gone so many different ways. Number one, the puck could have gone through and it could have gone in, could have hit, I don't know, like every single Blue and Jet was in front of the goal, could have hit someone and went in. Or his stick could have broken, and then if the puck came back to him, he didn't have a stick. Or it could have been blocked and the Blues would have gotten out of the zone. That small play. That play, the gods were on their side for the Jets. Good on them. What a series.
I also think what impressed me about that play as well was the fact that he maintained such a cool head about it.
Yeah.
There was the fan, and then there was no panic. I mean, Ehlers has been around. He's not a rookie, but still, there was no panic and decided that's not going to work. Switch gears, pivot, make the pass over to Connor. And of course, now we know what happened after that. And then it was just mayhem. I watched that game to the bitter end. How could you not?
No,
and it was absolute mayhem.
On that play, I was just thinking as you're just speaking about it, that if Ehlers had have made complete contact with the puck and he got behind that first shot and it went all the way through, it could have hit a bunch of guys. But when he went to Connor, the amount of players in front of Binnington at that time was not nearly as many as it was from the Ehlers perspective. So there was time for the Jets to get a stick on it. And they did. Anyway, that was wild. Give the Blues a ton of credit. I mean, I had them winning the thing in 6. I knew it wasn't going to happen after 6, obviously. But what a series, though. What a series.
So, big question now. They move on to play the Dallas Stars.
Yeah, the answer is no.
Is Hellebuyck okay?
No, he's not okay. He's fine at home. He's fine at home. He's 4-0 at home, 2.50 goals against. He's fine at home. But no, he is not good. I've been baffled even for the outcome of that game. Even he's baffled. It just does not make any sense how you can go from having these incredible numbers, these dominant Vezina Trophy winning numbers, to just stinking the bed in the first round. And his numbers, Vic, in the last couple of seasons in the playoffs, they've not been good. 1-4, 1-4, goals against of 5, some this and this. So I know goalies are made differently. They're a different breed. But you just really want to know, for his sake, is it just one that gets by him, then all of a sudden things start to tick? And then if the other gets by him, then things really start to tick. But then he played decently. I know the team was down 3-1, and they made a huge comeback. They did. The Blues did. But at the end of it, I am not any. If he plays anywhere like he did in this round against Dallas, there's no chance the Jets are moving on. No chance.
See, the way I'm looking at it, because he stunk so bad, soiling the bed, as you say, in that first period, those were two goals that he couldn't let in. They were bad. Okay. And once they went down 2-0, I honestly thought it was done. Dallas is going to score another, and the Jets are eventually going to lose 3-1, something like that, because this just looked like it was a disaster in the making.
Sure.
The fact that he was so very good after that, particularly in the third period and in overtime, especially in overtime, I wonder if this is a turning of the page, a cleansing of the bad juju. We're going to just move on now. You know, we exorcised the demons. I understand they were at home and not on the road. They need to win on the road. Absolutely. But I wonder if this is just, okay, I was in the poops and dragged ourselves out of it and played. He played supremely well in overtime, Ryan. He was very good.
He should. He's the best goalie in the world. He should.
I'm more optimistic.
And look, I don't want to, I'm not putting the guy further down, but if the narrative would be a lot different today and last night, if the Jets did lose and say they lost 3-1, or say they pulled the goalie in the Blues score to make it 4-1, and that was the end, right? My goodness, the amount of goals that he gave up in the 7 games. So what would the discussion be after that? Anyway, for the Jets and the Dallas Stars next round, we'll get to that preview in a second. But let's just quickly revisit Dallas and Colorado. That was the Game 7 on Saturday, and that was a wild game too. The
also Avalanche not boring.
Avalanche got out to a great start, and then Mikko Ray Colorado. You remember Mikko? I have one thing to say to you about that, which I'll do it in a second. He took the game over. Next thing you know, they come back to tie it. They take the lead, empty net goal. Mikko was the king in Game 7, and they advanced past Colorado.
He's the best player on the ice the last 2 games.
He's so good in the playoffs too, right? He is so good.
Leads the league in production right now in the postseason.
Yeah.
He is. He has been clutch. A lot of people are piling on the Colorado Avalanche, somewhat justifiably, not fully in my mind, about the trade. They traded away their guy. Now they're meeting him in the West. We have to remember the Colorado Avalanche didn't trade Mikko Rantanen to the Dallas Stars. They traded Mikko Rantanen to a team in the Eastern Conference that they would not anticipate meeting up with until the Stanley Cup final if it got that far. So they didn't just hand Mikko Rantanen over to the Stars, who they might face in the first round. That's not what it is. That being said...
Yeah, go ahead.
So no. That being said, they had to do a better job of containing him. That whole team knows who that guy is, and you know what you need to do to beat him, and they weren't good enough. And they had that game, Ryan. They had it in their hands.
No, they did. And we'll get to Jason Robertson, which is great news for Dallas. We were Heiskanen as well, great news for Dallas in a second. But I remember Nate McKinnon said after that game, he said, we couldn't beat that team without their number 1 player in Robertson score and their number 1 defenseman in Heiskanen. I don't know what the problem is. We have something to do. I'm just going to go back to this, to your point about, yes, Colorado would not have even traded him to Dallas. They don't trade you don't trade within your division somebody like that.
Not somebody like that.
No, but I don't understand what went wrong, because I remember when Rantanen was dealt to Carolina, and he came out shortly after that. You knew it just wasn't going to work in Carolina. But he came out and he said, look, 6 weeks before the deadline, his camp was talking with the Avalanche about an extension. The numbers, I think they were a bit off. Rantanen said even closer to the deadline than 6 weeks, that he went to the Avs and said, I will take less to stay because I want to be here long term. Now, the Avalanche, yes, they have a lot committed to Nate McKinnon, whatever it is. And the Avalanche wanted depth. Their mentality was, well, if we don't want to lose you for nothing. But here's my thing. If you have a star player, Vic, coming to you saying, I will take less to stay here, and he signed it, what he signed with, a 12 mil, right? I think.
Ballpark, yeah. I think it was 12 and a quarter, something like that. But anyways, essentially 12, yes.
12 and change. Colorado could have afforded that. Even if he took a little bit less, say under 12, it was clear that Rantanen wanted to stay. So I just don't, what are we missing? What don't we know as to why that did not work? Especially if you open up the conversation before the deadline to say, look, I'm going to take less. I want to stay. Let's try to make this thing work.
I wonder if sometimes people just get a little stubborn.
Sure.
And and then they get misdirected, and then they make a mistake. And I wonder if this was just a plain old-fashioned mistake. Let's look ahead to this series now. So now we have no more Colorado. I think the playoffs are a little lesser without Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar in them, but
agreed.
So a good team had to go home here. We talked about that even to start the series. So now we have Dallas Jets. What are you expecting from this?
Yeah, well, this one, again, I know the old adage is, and you hear it all the time, it's going to come down to goaltending. But if Connor Hellebuck plays like we know that he can through 82 games, and if he plays the games in Dallas like he played the 4 games on home ice in Winnipeg against the St. Louis Blues, then they will be fine. The concern is, too, with Mark Scheifele.
Yes.
The concern is with Josh Morrissey.
Yes.
Those are 2 key players on that club. But Dallas, they've had some out. They're getting some back. The Heiskanen thing, too, I just hope they do the right thing with him, because I saw on the weekend that they were looking, he had to get cleared by the doctors again in order to get moving. And one of the discussion points, and Brian Ray, who we've had on the show before, Brian Ray said that they're worried, they don't want to make a decision that will affect his short-term career or long-term. So when you're putting the short and the long together and trying to decide whether somebody's going to come back to play, it worries me a bit, put it that way, for Heiskanen's sake.
I think they're going to do the right thing. I think we're progressed enough as a league now to make more responsible medical decisions, because there's been too many missteps and players have suffered because of it. So I trust the Dallas Stars to do the right thing. I hope so. I hope so anyways. It's great news, though, having both Jason Robertson back. I don't know if I necessarily call him their best forward like Nathan McKinnon did, but he's certainly top 3. And then getting their top defender back, there's no question of that, is going to be very big as well. For me, the biggest question marks for this, because I really like the way the Jets played a few of these games at home this past series, and they looked a lot more Jets-like, especially in the third and the overtime periods last night. My big thing is Mark Scheifele.
Right.
Josh Morrissey too, but Mark Scheifele.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that.
He is their best player. Yeah. He is their top center. Nemestikov did an admirable job filling in. He really did. But they're not the same team without Mark Scheifele, who's coming off a career year. Now, positively, he was considered a game day decision ahead of Game 7, and he was skating around by himself in a tracksuit. So there's reason to believe by the time Wednesday rolls around, because it is Monday now, by the time Wednesday rolls around, hopefully he's good to go. And whatever's ailing Josh Morrissey, it looks like a hand to me, but I can't assess that. Who knows? Maybe a shoulder. And hopefully Josh Morrissey is if everybody's good and everything's tickety-boo, this is going to be a tight series, I think.
Okay, so prediction from you.
Jets
Dallas,
in 7.
Jets in 7.
Jets in 7.
It's going to go the distance again. I'm going to take Dallas in 6.
Okay.
Dallas in 6. So we'll see. Vic says Jets in 7.
I picked the Jets to win. I was going to say the Super Bowl. I got Bills on the brain.
Hey, it's okay. We know that you're getting season's tickets again. It's okay. We get it. Fine.
I picked the Jets to win the Stanley Cup, so I'm not going to back away now, especially after last night's heroics. All right, moving on.
Yeah. Oilers Vegas, we're going to talk to Paige Martin in just a little bit, and she's an Oilers host and reporter, and we'll dive more into that series. But just quickly, Edmonton knocking out the Kings yet again, 4th consecutive season. They were down 0-2. They win 4 in a row. They win 4-2. Vegas knocking off Minnesota in 6 games too. So now, Vic, we set up Edmonton-Vegas round 2.
Vegas has superior goaltending. Aiden Hill got stronger as that series wore on.
Check.
Better depth scoring.
Check.
Better team defensively.
Check. I know
the Oilers have McDavid. The Oilers have McDavid and Draisaitl.
They got 97 and 29.
And actually, and you know what? We got to toss in Evan Bouchard these days.
We do.
Because the Oilers aren't playing right now without Evan Bouchard and what he accomplished in that first round, no matter what Draisaitl and McDavid accomplished.
Agreed.
McDavid is averaging 1.83 points per game.
No. And look, this is what we knew going in. We knew that and a lot of people thought this was the Kings' year to beat Edmonton. A lot of them did.
I did.
After that, yeah, I did too. I had them in 5. And after going up 2-0, you think, okay, yes, McDavid but I remember the narrative always is, well, you can't count out Leon and Connor. No, you can't. I totally understand that, but those 2 guys are on a different level, and they always will be, and Edmonton's lucky to have. Imagine that. You have 2 of the best in the world on one team. Usually it's like, one best in the world here on this team, and then you have a second best. No, you got 2 of the best in the world, arguably 1-2.
On the same line right now.
On the same line. It's ridiculous.
But I wonder if that actually comes back to bite the Oilers in the bum, because we saw this story 2 years ago when they played Vegas. Vegas eventually going on to win the Stanley Cup. The way that Stone and Eichel and William Karlsson in particular shut them down to a degree. I mean, you never quite shut them down, but stifling them a little bit. They did it effectively.
Yes.
And you have a much stronger defensive core. Ekholm still isn't coming back for this series. I know you like Calvin Pickard. I like Calvin Pickard too. Oh boy, against Vegas's offense.
Vic, listen, there is no discussion. Calvin Pickard is your number one goaltender.
Oh, I agree with you.
I said this 3 months ago. I said
but he's not an ideal choice, Ryan. He's not an ideal choice. Okay?
Even going into game one against the Kings, I said I got roasted by saying, I forget whoever it was, and maybe they say this in front of Skinner after he used to play in the season. But I remember after one game that Calvin Pickard started and played, I forgot, maybe it was Bouchard, I don't know who it was. Let's just say whoever. They said we're very comfortable playing in front of Calvin Pickard.
Mm-hmm.
So whether you're throwing Skinner under the bus, I don't know if that was the case, but you just don't really hear that too often, because I know that if I was the number one starter, if I was Skinner, I'd think, oh, hold on a second. Well, you guys aren't comfortable with me, all the kind of stuff that goes on in the room. There's no discussion whatsoever that Calvin Pickard is the guy going forward.
Sure, between the two of them.
Yeah,
but in a perfect world, he wouldn't be. If the Oilers could go and pluck Vasilevsky out of Tampa Bay for a moment, they would do it in a heartbeat. Calvin Pickard is a decent goaltender. He's not who you want in the Western Conference semifinal, ideally.
Edmonton,
as opposed to Stuart Skinner, yes.
Yeah, Edmonton would have a better chance with you and I in goal than Stuart Skinner.
Again.
Listen, no, together, not each.
Oh, okay.
Both of them. You're right.
I'll take the right, you take the left.
No room at all for anyone to score. Hey, Jack, how about that 1/4 inch in the top? That's all you're getting. Anyway.
Right.
Okay, prediction then. Edmonton, Vegas, who?
I have got Vegas in 6. I'm just going to go with the D. And I think the Oilers are very fortunate to still be playing hockey right now. And as we talked last week, I thought the Kings lost that series as opposed to the Oilers winning it. And that's the difference for me. So I'm going to go Vegas in 6. What do you have?
I have Vegas in 6 as well.
Oh, we haven't agreed on too much this postseason.
No,
so there we go. A little bit of little bit of kismet there.
Vegas in 6. Panthers, Leafs, I think we may be differing in this one. They start tonight. Again, 2 series start tonight. 2 of them start tomorrow. The draft lottery 2 tonight. We'll get into that very quickly as well in just a bit. But once again, if the Leafs getting into round 2, I know it hasn't happened very often. They got to slay the dragon now. Brad Marchand there. And all the storylines going in. The Panthers coming off a nice series against Tampa, winning 4-1. So what do you expect in this one?
Well, the fact that the Panthers have not one, but 2 Selke candidates on their team is a bit of a bother in Sam Reinhart and Alexander Barkov. That's a bother. Listen, they're familiar with each other.
They are.
I like the edge that Stolarz can possibly provide the Leafs in terms he understands how that team shoots on net, at least in practice.
Mm-hmm.
Stolarz has played really well. Mm-hmm. If Stolarz continues to play really well, and the Leafs can somewhat contain that forecheck and that blustery, pesky play, because people are going to make some poor decisions in this series. People are going to get game misconducts, and people are going to get hurt. It just depends on who it is. Mm-hmm. This is going to be a big battle of special teams for me. If the Leafs power play is tickety-boo like it was for parts of that first round, I think they stand a pretty good shot because they do have William Nylander, they have Austin Matthews, they have Mitch Marner, and they have John Tavares. And I will take those 4 over any other 4 in the league based on skill.
And you know who they have that the Panthers do not have? They have Matthew Knies. Matthew Knies, I think, is going to be the X factor in this series. Going back to what you said about, I'm just going to summarize it like this. Leafs going in as underdogs. They're a different team mentally. It's going to be tough. Craig Berube said the other day, I'm fully expecting to be tough, but whatever, we'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Special teams is key. So the Leafs were clicking, I think, at 35.3% on the power play in that opening round of the playoffs. In the regular season, no team in the NHL had more penalty minutes or penalties taken than the Panthers did. They had 853 penalty minutes and 340 penalties taken. And in round 1,
they're a bunch of pests. Bunch of pests.
They had 72 penalties. So what you said was, this is going to come down, I think, to special teams. And also, Florida's going to come out banging tonight. Toronto is as well, but it's going to be different. Florida has the edge physically. If Toronto can just weather that storm, so to speak, and stick to their game plan, try not to get rattled, it's going to be very hard. I do think the Leafs are going to find a way to get this thing done.
How many games?
6.
You have the Leafs in 6?
I do.
I have Florida in 6. I
Okay.
will be very, very, very happy to be wrong.
Okay. Well, we'll see you after they win Game 6, and I'll text you saying, "Hey, you happy now?" Off we go.
I'll be very. I'm fine with getting making a mistake on that one.
And look,
totally fine. But I do think the Panthers have the edge to me.
And a lot of people do agree with that, and they will go in thinking that as well. This is, it's going to be tough, regardless of what's going to happen. It's going to be a very tough series for the Leafs to win, but I do think they can pull off. Last one, Capitals and the Canes. Tomorrow night is Game 1 in Washington. No surprise that these two teams are meeting because everybody knew that the Canes would get by the Devils. It was just a matter. Some people thought it was 3 games, but it took 5. And the Capitals, they bested Montreal in 5 games, 4-1 as well. So here we go. I'm not surprised these two teams are meeting. I think they're closer than people may think, and I would not be surprised if this goes a fair distance.
We were just talking about special teams with the Leafs and Panthers, and I think, again, not just to be repetitive, I think it's an even bigger factor in this series. Carolina Hurricanes have the #1 penalty kill in the league.
Yeah.
The Capitals have a good, they're not number 1, but they're top 10. They have a top 10 power play. They have Alex Ovechkin, who's good at that.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to come down to for me. If Carolina's kill can stifle Capitals power play, and if the goaltending is good enough, whether it's Kochetkov or I don't know what's going on with Freddie Anderson.
Oh,
do you
please,
know?
Freddie, just stay healthy. Please, Freddie.
So whoever's between the pipes, if they manage, that's going to be key on the Capitals side as well. If Logan Thompson plays as well as he did in that first round, the Capitals get a little bit of an edge there. If Logan Thompson plays like he did to wrap the regular season, Carolina gets an edge there.
Canes on the PK, 15 for 15 in that first round, 1 shorthanded goal.
That's pretty good, Ryan.
Translation,
pretty
1.
Good.
That's 110% because you count the shorthanded goal on top of the 15 for 15. So let's give 110%.
That's cute.
And again, they led the league 83.6% over the course of the season.
Outstanding.
Freddie Anderson, very quickly, he was 3-1, goals against under 1.6 in those 4 games in the first round against the Devils before he got hurt. Here's an interesting statistic, and it may come down to this. Capitals are a big team. Carolina's big, but the Capitals are bigger. Hey, Tom Wilson, you're big, right? The Capitals were and I think there's a lot that people should put into this type of stuff. High danger scoring chances, I think, are big.
Absolutely.
The Caps were a +16 in those scoring chances in round 1. They had 40 opportunities, and they allowed Montreal with 24. So 2 things with that. Number 1, they were a good high danger scoring chance team, but they also cut down. They cut it down with Montreal. So defensively, they're pretty good as well. So if I don't know what the high danger is. Is it, I forget the amount of feet, is it out from the goal or whatever that is?
The people who do this, they know what it is.
Thank you, Vic.
The smarter analytical
the smarter people know what it is.
I read their numbers. I'm like, sounds good to me.
Yep. Let's write it down. Let's use it. Thank you.
Yeah.
But no, it may come down to just outside the paint. It'll come down to inside the paint, right? So, who do you have? Canes, Caps, and how many games?
Canes in 6. I like their T defense. I like their T defense too much. I just do. You have the Capitals?
I have the Capitals in 6.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, you have Winnipeg in 7. I have Dallas in 6. I have Caps in 6. You have the Canes in 6. I have Toronto in 6. You have the Panthers in 6? 7.
Yes. 6. Everything is 6 except for the Jets.
And we both have Vegas in 6.
One of us is going to be a lot more correct than the other.
You think? Yes, we are. Last one. The NHL Draft Lottery will go tonight at 7 p.m. Held at the NHL Network Studios in New Jersey. So San Jose, love this lottery. Well, I don't really, to be honest with you, but whatever. I like the intrigue of it going in. They have the league's worst record. They have the best odds at 18.5%. Chicago, 13.5%. And Nashville, 11.5%.
Can you imagine if Nashville gets it? They could.
No, I can't.
And then after having that stacked lineup, completely blowing out this season in disastrous fashion, and then they get the #1 draft.
Yeah.
Who do you want? I know we have no say in it, and nor should we. But who do you want to get it?
The way San Jose is trending,
that's mine.
And just with and I know we talked about this quite a bit with the different teams that are struggling over the past season. The body language for me is so indicative of where the team is mentally. And you put Chicago and San Jose together, Chicago, not a very good team, neither are the Sharks. But most nights, even if San Jose gets 7-1, whatever, I know they're not happy, but it's just different. You see something different. I like where they're trending. I want to see them getting back to where they were. And look, they have Celebrini. I think they have a ton of draft picks this draft as well. So I'd like to see him go to San Jose. I would.
I'm mad at Chicago too. I just don't like the way that organization has been run recently. No. I don't like how it's been managed. I don't like how it's been coached. I'm just annoyed with them. And this is an original 6 team that I have a soft spot for. So I'm a little annoyed with them right now. So I'd like to see San Jose get it as well.
Okay, we shall see. Draft lottery coming up tonight, and then that precedes round 2, night 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. It's going to be fun.
Oh, boy.
Paige Martin going to join us. Edmonton will take on Vegas in round 2, game 1 tomorrow, and she'll join us next, and we'll dissect that series in more detail. Pucks in 7, Ryan, Payton, Victoria, Matiash.
Welcome back to Pucks in 7 with Ryan Payton and Victoria Matiash.
Okay, welcome back to Pucks in 7. The Edmonton Oilers will take on the Vegas Golden Knights in round 2, game 1 on Tuesday. And I know my guest is going to love this. Let's turn the page from Edmonton and the Kings to now Edmonton and Vegas. She's laughing. Paige Martin joining us, Edmonton Oilers host and reporter. Nice to have you on, Paige. How are you?
Well, thank you so much for having me on. I've definitely never heard that one before.
Oh, you haven't? Really?
Real original. It was original.
I've been up all night trying to, okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to intro her? Okay, good. So that worked. Funny thing is, and again, we'll get into a whole bunch of things with the series and also the Kings and the Oilers, but when you and I were trying to find a time to connect for you to come on, we were chatting back and forth, and I just want to share with people because we finalized a time. And then I said, well, I bet you probably looking forward to travel. And that was when the Kings were hopefully going to game 7 in LA. This was when it was game 6 in Edmonton. You said, well, okay, then that's fine. But I really don't want to go back to LA. Anyway, that was a funny part.
Yeah, it's a weird time of year because I feel like until April, we completely know our schedule. Everything's set. And then mid-April hits and you really have no idea what's happening after the first 4 games. And so obviously that's exactly what happened with the Oilers. We had a good feeling of being able to have game 6 in Edmonton. Everyone recalls the last 2 game 6s, especially with Dallas and then Florida. Obviously we won't talk about what happened after that game 6, but game 6s in Edmonton are so much fun. So we had a good feeling, but yeah, I didn't really want to go back to LA.
So let's go to that series before we look ahead to Vegas and the Edmonton Oilers in round 2. Again, that starts tomorrow, game number 1. The Kings go up 2-0. Again, the narrative going in was, is this the year the Kings finally beat Edmonton in the round? And it looked like they were going to, but even still, though, when they were up 2-0, Paige, I don't know if you agree with this, with my take, but I really didn't get that feeling. I wasn't convinced. However, I did think the Kings were built a bit differently. Just take me into your mindset going into the series and then obviously the outcome, Edmonton winning in 6.
Everything that you just said, I completely agree with, to the fact that the Kings were a different team than what we've seen before this year because they were so deep. And that got to be an interesting narrative when it got to be game 3, game 4, because they were playing 9 forwards and 4 defensemen. And we saw the way that took a toll on them. Game 6, they did play their depth, and I thought their depth played excellent. I thought that they were great and gave them a chance to win. That being said, being in LA for games 1 and 2, it's an incredible atmosphere. It certainly is. The Kings were great at home all year, so they had that, what I found like a little bit of an extra edge to their game. I thought with game 1, the day after game 1, the way that Connor led the charge in the third period.
Incredible.
A goal, 3 assists. The way that he just put the team on his back and simply was just Connor McDavid.
Yeah.
That was so much fun to watch. And I thought that it could have put a little bit of doubt into the LA Kings because the manner that they came back, of course, Philip Deneau scores that kind of heartbreaking goal for the Edmonton Oilers in game 1.
Yeah.
That being said, then game 2, they come out so strong, but it's not a series until a team loses on home ice. So then the Oilers come back, and especially the way that they won both games 3 and 4, game 4 in overtime. Of course, it's Leon Draisaitl. Then suddenly, like that Sunday night, suddenly, oh, we have a series. Now it's a best of 3. Now I found once the Edmonton Oilers got back to Rogers Place, there is such an advantage for them. They feed off of this crowd. I have bias experiencing so many different fan bases in the league. And you get the same feel in Edmonton that you do when you're at the Bell Center in Montreal, right? Like there is that electricity. I would say
a lot of people feel that's the top tier, the Bell
yeah,
Center.
and I think that you can watch games on TV, like Edmonton games on TV, and you're like, wow, that looks so great. And then you come to the city during playoffs, and the way that this city cares about this team, everything else goes out the window when it's playoffs, which is fantastic. And I'm someone who's from Southwestern Ontario. I grew up, halfway between Detroit and Toronto, and there's just such a diversity of sports there. So the fact that everyone here cares, they bleed the blue and orange, that really helped the Oilers, getting back to my point. But it was just electric, and I think that we still did see very similar things that we've seen in the last 3 series. Round 1, LA, Edmonton. You knew it was going to be fierce. You knew it was going to be physical. There's a rivalry. It was so much fun.
And good on them. Down 0-2, but even at that time, as I said, the sense was, no, I just still think Edmonton's going to be okay, and they won in 6. I want to take not a negative spin on it, but something that certainly was brought up again during this series, and it was Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard. So I had this take about 3 or 4 months ago, and I was in the minority. I got roasted, but I said, and I forget one of the games that Edmonton played, and I'm not quite sure exactly who said it. I can't quite recall. But one of the players on the team said, we're very comfortable playing in front of Calvin Pickard. Now, that's not to say he was saying we're not in front of Stuart Skinner, but I just found it interesting. And I said months ago, I really do think that going into game 1, whoever it would be against, that I really did think that Calvin Pickard should be the number 1 starter in goal for Edmonton. I feel for Stuart Skinner. I do. I don't think he's as bad of a goalie as the numbers that we see, especially in that first round. Where do you stand on that?
So I think that it's a very valid conversation. The numbers do not lie. The game experiences do not lie. I think where it's interesting with the Oilers is that they have 2 very capable goaltenders. I'll stand by that with Stuart Skinner, but I also think that people get in their minds about a backup goaltender, that he can't come in and do what teams need them to do. Like Calvin Pickard, every single time that he is in the crease, especially he's coming off of his first 20-win season in many, many years. I'm sorry, I can't actually recall, like maybe back to his Colorado days, right? So it's been a while. And the fact that he had the season and performed the way that he did for the Oilers, completely agree with what you're saying. Stuart Skinner is an interesting case in the sense of we've seen this before. So I don't think that there's always going to be so much talk. I think that we know that he's going to do the work to respond in a way that he needs to. That being said, I think that the Oilers are just such an interesting case because they have 2 goalies, and I don't necessarily think that one is the dedicated backup, even though structurally, yes, he is. Calvin Pickard comes in and he plays fantastic. He doesn't play like a backup goaltender. He comes in and he steps up. And I have to wonder if that, when you kind of were saying that a couple months ago, if that was maybe when Calvin Pickard came up with the overtime when we were in Long Island, and he also had the assist on Leon Draisaitl's overtime goal. I remember speaking to Leon after the game about Calvin, how much he means to the team. The fact that he also saw that play develop, like Calvin Pickard passes it to Connor McDavid, who gets it up to Leon Draisaitl for the breakaway. So much fun to watch. And the fact that Pix was part of that play. And I remember Leon Draisaitl saying exactly what you just said, is we love playing for him. He always gives us a chance to win. Calvin as a guy is an even better human being than he is a goaltender. He plays with so much passion, and he treats everyone like gold. So it's very easy to cheer for him. I am excited to see the way that Stuart Skinner responds, because I think that obviously it's needed. He needs to come out and he needs to have not one big game. He needs to have multiple big games. And I don't even know if it's redeeming himself, because we saw this during the Vancouver series last year. So it's a really good point that you raised. I do believe in Stuart Skinner. I think that he can dig down and do it, but we also got Calvin Pickard, and I think that this team is going to be fine no matter who's in net.
Imagine Pickard never gets another point in his life. He can go back and say, I was in on a goal with Connor McDavid and Leo. I started the play that led to that goal. I'd put it in a plaque, put it in a frame, Calvin. And that was pretty awesome. Okay, let's move on to Vegas. Again, it's going to be a tough series. I'll get your prediction later on with this, but Vegas, we know ever since they've come into the league, all they do is win. I know that they were constructed a little differently and quite well than other expansion teams, but you got to watch for their goaltender, Adin Hill. You got to watch for Jack Eichel. You got to be mindful of Mark Stone, their defenseman core, a defense core as well. Those two names, Eichel and Stone. I know Evan Bouchard, I love the way that guy plays hockey. I love the way he plays on the blue line for Edmonton. This is going to be another tough test, not only for Edmonton's core stopping Eichel and Stone, but the entire Vegas team. Is there any kind of blueprint that you can look at, do you think, to stop those two players, or do you just stay within your system, stay within the game?
I think that what we saw the Oilers get to during the LA series is exactly where they need to pick up where they left off. The players have been saying we need to be imposing our game and our systems upon them, because there's also, as much as there's been questions about the Oilers netminders, there's also been questions about their blue line. Of course, they are missing one of their best defensemen in Matthias Ekholm. Chris Knobloch said he's not available during this Vegas series. And that is a huge loss for the Edmonton Oilers. That being said, we saw the way that they all rallied around that. We're seeing Jake Wallman, John Klingberg. Those two acquisitions this year have been pivotal, especially in the playoffs. Jake Wallman is he brings such a calm presence, I find, to the blue line, and so does John Klingberg, as well as that offensive flair. The assist that John Klingberg had with Evander Kane in Game 5 to be able to tie the game that way, like that is such a smart blue liner play. So the fact that we have those names stepping up, someone even like Ty Emberson, who often is, first out of the boards or I should say off the bench for the penalty kill. And he's such a young defenseman coming in. He's playing very crucial minutes. You can't overlook Brett Kulak and Darnell Nurse, of course, the numbers that they're playing. And then Evan Bouchard has been doing what he's doing and contributing offensively as well. So I think that the Oilers have kind of found a different way to mold themselves defensively. And that's exactly what they need to do when you mention the likes of Jack Eichel, Mark Stone, and we know how deep they are too. So I thought that Vegas had maybe more of a surprising series against the Minnesota Wild. Not necessarily.
I'd agree.
Yeah, like not necessarily what people thought it would be. Yeah. That being said, it's the playoffs and you never know. Credit to Minnesota because they played very well against a very good Vegas team. I think the Oilers match up better against Vegas compared to how the Wild match up. So I'm intrigued to see. There's also been the conversation of the fact that a lot of these core guys, they remember what happened 2 years ago.
Sure.
And then Vegas goes on to win the Stanley Cup. So does that still ring true in their mind? I do think that there has to be an element of it. I know for the fans, that's definitely present. So I'm excited to see, LA brings its own rivalry and energy. Vegas brings, I would say, a very similar level, but it's a different type of energy. So I'm excited to see the way that the Oilers respond to that and pick up where they left off, hopefully.
Players and fans don't forget. They really don't. And they're short memories when it comes to players, especially. I remember what happened, even though it's, say, 2-3, whatever it is, years ago. I remember what happened in that series. I want to talk to you about Evander Kane. I've always said this, and you see him a lot more than I do, certainly because you're in Edmonton. But I've always said this about him, that when he wants to, and we know all the things off the ice, and he's just an interesting individual. I'll just leave it at that. But when he wants to be, he can be the most dominant player on the ice during his shift. That's in my opinion. He's tough. He's got soft hands. He's got the awareness. He brings so many. If there's a 5-tool player in the game, I know there's a 5-tool baseball player, but if there's a 5-tool guy in the game, I think Evander Kane is one of those. Do you think that he can be put under, because I'm going to ask you about X factors in this series outside of a Leon and Connor. I know you mentioned a whole bunch too when we just talked about the defensive side of things with Edmonton. But do you think Kane can be an X factor in this series?
110%. I want the visual of that moment that he had with the fan at the glass 2 years ago. Blowing a kiss. Yeah. He can absolutely be an X factor. And I think that he even could be the X factor. I think that there's reason for even to think that he was an X factor during the LA series. I think he absolutely was. That was also a turning point. The fact that I love the picture, the overhead photo of when he scored that goal in game 3? Game 3? Yeah, it was game 3 and tied the game right at the crease. It's Evander Kane, every single LA King, as well as Darcy Kemper, sprawled amongst the crease.
Yeah.
He's there. He's fighting those battles. And like you said, he brings so many different elements to the game offensively. Yes, he contributes. He knows how to come up clutch in big moments, which is sometimes, not that it's surprising, but he's not necessarily the guy that you're going to look to like Connor and Leon. But then he kind of comes from the depth that way for the Edmonton Oilers. Physically, he knows how to bring the energy. I made a joke with my co-host Tony, is the fact that with Evander Kane, he's the definition of the quote of more energy, more passion. Like that is him. Like he brings that game in and game out, and I think that he also, by bringing that, empowers other teammates to bring that as well, who have that in their game, but maybe don't necessarily know when. I think we're seeing a huge impact on someone like Vasily Podkolzin. When Evander came back into the lineup in game 2 of that series, not only did that make Edmonton's lineup just that much more dynamic, because teams have to respond. They have to know when he's on the ice. They have to be ready for a big hit at any given moment. And then someone like Vasily Podkolzin sees that and says, I can play that type of game. I'm going to go out and do that too. And there's an interesting point that my colleague Jack Michaels brought up, is with the lines that Edmonton has been rolling lately, you have an enforcer on each and every single line. The top line has Corey Perry. We know his antics. Second line, Evander Kane.
No, we don't know anything about Corey Perry. No, he's as clean as they come. Come on.
Right? I know, the beloved worm. And so like the Trent Fredericks on the third line, Vasily Podkolzin on the fourth line. Now teams have to respond in a different way than they used to against the Edmonton Oilers, when maybe it was Evander Kane and a select other player. Right. So that is a huge advantage that I think Chris Knobloch has unlocked when it comes to forming his lineup. So Evander Kane, I don't think it can be understated how valuable he is, and the fact that it's crazy that he didn't play an entire season. And then he stepped in. Yeah, he stepped into game 2. And I think that it was a little bit of an adjustment period. And you were like, well, how long is this going to last? It didn't last longer than that. Game 3, he was so impactful. So, and he looked like Evander Kane as well, and almost on a shift by shift basis.
And that's what I mean when he's engaged, he's great in every asset and every facet of the game. Before we get to your prediction, then we'll do some 77 seconds questions with you. You ever pinch yourself when you realize that you get to cover and talk to two of the greatest hockey players in the world on the same team in McDavid and Draisaitl?
Every single day. I think what's funny with those two is that, and my friends always laugh at me when I say this, but they are such genuine guys off the ice. Like when the cameras go away, and they're just like, Leon's a 95, I'm a 96. Connor is obviously a 97. So I'm very similar age to them. And I think that like the players kind of like realize that, and we're all on the same team. And I think that it's fun to be around them, because you're like, wow, you are two of the greatest hockey players in the entire world. But once all that goes away, they are just lovely guys who treat everyone so well.
That's amazing.
And they put up with a lot. So I would say yes, and I think that trickles down to the entire team, and why our team is as lovely as they are.
It's contagious. I always will say this about Zach Hyman, that he had a chance to play with Austin Matthews in Toronto, and he's a chance to play with Connor McDavid and Draisaitl. Not many guys can say I've played with three of the really great hockey players that we're seeing in the game today. Okay, prediction time. Try to put the bias aside. Let's be as neutral as we possibly can. Vegas, Edmonton, how many games?
It's going to be 6 or 7.
Okay.
It's going to be 6 or 7. And it depends upon how well the Oilers respond to what Vegas brings, and also how much Vegas, I would argue, needs to bring a different game than what they brought against Minnesota. I'm going to say Oilers in 6.
Okay. I've got Edmonton in 6 as well. So we're on the same page. There
Love
you go.
that.
Right
There's
back
a
to your
theme
name.
here.
There we go. Okay. Let's get into 77 seconds this again. And I know I briefed you with this, and no need to fret and worry about it.
I can't wait.
7 questions, hockey, non-hockey related ones. And you don't, 70s, I don't put a clock on you. So, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Now that we're down to 8 teams, 4 in the East, 4 in the West. Cup final matchup, has it changed since the playoffs started for you?
No, I think that the first round went pretty well. I mean, other than what happened last night with Winnipeg and the Blues, that was insane.
Yeah.
Every hockey fan's dream, unless you're the St. Louis Blues, of course. Right. But the first round went pretty well as I expected it to. And I don't think there were many surprises there. I'm really looking forward to seeing how the Panthers and the Leafs battle that one out. That's for sure.
That's going to maybe one of those series that who's left standing, right? Whoever, it doesn't matter if you go home, it's who's left healthy enough to stand. Okay, does Draisaitl win the Hart?
In my opinion, yes. I think so.
Coolest sports figure that you've ever met?
Oh, I would say I got to meet and interview Haley Wickenheiser.
Amazing.
That was next level. I think she kind of had the same impact that like Connor does when he walks into a room.
Sure.
And yeah, and also she's casually a doctor now, and that was during her residency. And I was like, okay,
right,
greatness knows no bounds.
Amazing. Most fun Oiler to interview?
Most fun?
Yeah. Who's got the most personality on the team?
Oh, one of our goalies for sure.
Right.
It's either Pix or Stu. Both great individuals that love to have a laugh. How
good up close is Gene Principe's hair?
Even better now. The fact that he's not
it's
cutting
looking really good.
It's looking so good. Looked even better in the moss pit the other night. Oh my gosh, I was worried about him.
Best thing about living in Alberta?
The sunshine. Hands down, the sunshine. And the fact that in the summer, the sun doesn't go down until like 10:30 p.m.
That is amazing. I got to move there. Have you ever seen Dale Hunter smile?
That's a funny one. Yes, I found that he smiled when his players would have those personal accomplishments.
Okay. A big smile or just a little one? Something?
It would sneak out. It would sneak out.
Okay. Last one. Greatest party joint on Richmond Row?
Ooh. During my university days, a lot of the places have been like renamed, but Barney's Patio is consistently the best place to be.
Barney's and the Seeps, right? The Seeps was...
you got it. Yep, they are one and the same.
Amazing. We talk our Western days. Of course, Paige in London. This has been awesome. Thank you for this. We'll look forward to doing this again. And you're traveling, right? I think today. And then
yes, we travel at 2:00 Mountain Time. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Amazing. Going to be fun. Thanks for this, Paige.
Thank you so much for having me, Ryan.
This has been Pucks in 7, available on the SiriusXM app and wherever you get your podcasts.